Welcome everyone. My name is Andrea Hyland. I'm the founder of the Incubator, an online co-working space for women creatives. I am a member of On Purpose Woman Global Community, actually since 2007. And today I am in the role of host for Jenny Robertson, who is not able to be here today. So, welcome to today's Connections Over Coffee gathering with the On Purpose Woman Global Community. I am so glad to be spending time with women who are at the meeting today, and to those of you who are watching this on our YouTube channel. I want to just, before I introduce the speaker, I want to say I would love to have you share the recording of our inspiring and insightful speaker today with others. And while you're here, take a look around at the channel because there's lots of inspiring speakers on this channel, lots of recordings. All right, turning our attention to our speaker of the day, it is Ellen Koronet, and her topic is Flex-ivert hacks. Now, this is a topic that Ellen has talked about other times, but stay tuned because she has some things she's going to say about hacks. The description today is when a room full of people are asked whether they see themselves as introverts or extroverts, a solid majority typically raise their hands quietly as introverts, even though many recognize that others see them as high-level extroverts. So through Ellen Koronet's self-funded research, these definitions of extrovert and introvert are not just being challenged, they are being set aside for a more functional and affirming way of embracing the best qualities of both. So let's play with these insights. And before I turn it over to you, Ellen, I just want to quickly read your bio. Ellen Koronet is an applied social scientist and creative strategist with over 40 years of experience transforming behavioral data into tools that drive deeper customer insight. She designs psychology-informed quizzes and interactive tools that help attract better leads, segment smarter, and convert with confidence. Ellen has been awarded highly coveted speaking spots at major industry conferences. She's well known for challenging the limits of traditional assessments, helping audiences bridge the gap between behavioral science and real-world strategy. You can find her link in the show page description here, lnkcreative.com. So welcome, Ellen. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you. I am sharing my screen.
Okay.
So thanks so much. And a quick shout out to Melissa Henry, my strategy coach, who helped me with that redefinition of who I am and how I'm showing up in the world. I love hearing it being read because that is exactly what I'm doing today. So we're going to talk about different ways that you can break through these labels that come onto you from your very earliest socialization all the way through to what happened to you yesterday or in the moment. Some of what I'm going to share with you today comes from this talk that I did in 2024 at Marketing Research Insight Conference. And really, this is what my work is all about now, is redefining psychographics, ditching these old school ways of shoving people into little boxes. So the traditional definitions of introvert and extrovert, and then they created this sort of middle because a lot of people didn't fit into one side or the other of these very oppositional definitions. So that would be the ambivert space. So the introvert is typically described as somebody who retreats to recharge, who prefers small groups. And the extrovert is somebody who's energized by being social, being seen, and is okay with just jumping right in and starting things up. So those are the traditional definitions. And I've been challenging these because I really looked back into all the literature I could find, and I discovered that this has sort of evolved in a very masculine way over time, starting with the Greek philosophers. Here's human behavior. Let's see what we can do about understanding how people interact with each other. And then Kant came up with four temperaments, and then Freud and Jung had a big fight, and they said, wait a minute, this is not the way we're going to look at people. We're going to look at people this way. And that's how Jung came up with this whole idea of the collective unconscious. And he's the one who first coined the term introvert versus extrovert. And then in the 50s and 60s, that was taken to a whole nother level. And they came up with a lot of the constructs that all of these new explosion of typing tools have built upon. And that's how we get, Myers-Briggs, which has introvert, extrovert, and all kinds of other oppositional ideas about how you prefer to be in the world. So this is really where it's all come from. And I actually want to stop sharing for a minute if I can find it. Okay. And I'll just talk a little bit about where we're coming from with all of this. So when psychologists report now that most of us are ambiverts, or they coin new terms like introverted extroverts, this is because they're trying to reconcile this idea that people don't find themselves easily on either side. And so when I searched for an understanding of what this middle people are, and what they actually prefer, I could find nothing. There was no real definition. It's a garbage can diagnosis. It's like you don't fit here, you don't fit there. Let's just call it as sort of like in the medical world when you get diagnosed with fibromyalgia, is because they can't really figure out where your pain is coming from, right? So that's what we've been doing with these personality types. And the research I'm doing now is based on the idea that these preferences are really situational and they're evolving. As you get older, you learn how to sort of balance the your need for being with people and your need for going inside. And they're nuanced, and most importantly, they coexist to varying degrees. So these middle options, when you give somebody in the marketing research world, when you give somebody a scale and you put something on one side and something on the other side and neither one fits, people end up in the middle. And we've become conditioned to see ourselves in this way. Like it's really become so accepted that we don't usually challenge that. So it's really hard to turn that thinking around on your own. And that would be okay, except if you end up, right in the middle and you have no definition, nothing to do with that. So there's a story that I love to tell about how averages are so misleading. Is like in the 40s, in the maybe the early 50s, the military decided we need to structure our cockpits for our Air Force pilots. And so they did a ton of research and measurements, and they had, social scientists and everybody looking at what do these pilots really need in their cockpit? And they came up with all kinds of categories and measurements, and they built the cockpit, but it basically they were building it around the averages. And guess what? It didn't fit anybody because nobody's an average. So nobody could reach the cockpit and the this and the that, everything they needed to do in the moment, because nobody was right in that middle range. It was a conglomeration of people on all kinds of places on a circle. So that's not the right way to look at us. And I'm on a mission to shift from these binary labels. We need more language and concepts that capture both and, right? Because that's what it means to be human. So let's do this. And where I've started is with this idea of introversion and extroversion. My studies showing that more of us have a strong preference for introvert characteristics and tendencies, which was a real surprise to me because the society is built around the idea of, you got to get out there on stage, you got to be friendly, you got to blah, 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 confidence and all this. But most of us actually, I'm finding, have this strong preference for the internal world, the health of our internal world. And I'm also finding there are a lot of strong introverts, but there really are not a lot of strong extroverts. It's really common to lean towards both qualities or toggle back and forth. And the idea that, most of us are extroverts is not quite true. So now I'm going to share some of the research findings, and then I'll get into these hacks that I've got for us today. So the three styles are, I'm not redefining introversion and extroversion. I'm just putting it in a new context. And what I'm finding is there are more qualities and more measurements that I can take in my assessments that others have not bothered to ask about. And what I'm finding is that about half of us are introverts inside, and there's the other half are some combination of going back and forth versus being more strongly extroverted. But the more strongly extroverted is never as strong as I thought it was going to be. So let's talk about what each one of these consists of when I look at the results. And what I'm doing is instead of measuring how introverted you are or how extroverted you are, I'm measuring both at the same time. So you can have them go up and down, or one goes higher, one goes lower. And what I found is that people who strongly prefer their alone time and their ability to stay kind of in a quiet space and reflect before they jump in, have a strong preference for the introversion measurements that I asked. And they don't have too strong a preference for extroversion, but it's still there, right? And then when you look at what that means, they need quiet time to regroup. They're inward thinkers. They listen before they jump in. They process alone, at least at first, internally reflect on how they're going to respond before they jump and start saying off the cuff. They're highly sensitive, and this is one that is not usually measured too much. And as you come around this circle here, you'll see more surprises that I'm getting out of this research. They don't like to be the one to spearhead a brand new cause. I guess that's not too big a surprise, but they tend to be later adopters. They're sort of waiting to see, and they see the big picture, the forest, not the trees. So that was one that was not measured. And you can see why a lot of us sort of prefer this natural way of being in the world. Now we look at the social expressives, which is how I've redefined extroversion, and they have a strong tendency to want to be out and about and be with people. They just love social groups. They love meeting people and all of that. But look at their introversion level. It is not as low as the opposite was for the introverts. They actually still have a strong need to go inside to refresh. They cherish their alone time. And that's so gives us permission to stop trying to be out there all the time. This is good energetic hygiene. Like, let's do this. And these word clouds come straight out of the research. The bigger the word is, the more people said about their own self-perception. So these are people who said they were extroverted, more extroverted than introverted, and they love being around people. They love, love, love energy, meet, hi, yay, let's do it, fun out there. Um, and that is exactly what I thought I was going to find. But the surprises here are that even though they're comfortable being outgoing, taking the mic or spearheading an idea, they also are visionaries and believers. They are rule benders when it matters, so they'll go to bat for you. They are comfortable starting a conversation, sharing insight, but there's some more nuance to this than we've heard from the men. So let's take a look at these people who had an equal level of preference for both of these qualities and both of these ways of being in the world. And what the surprise here for me is that both are rather high rather than being right in the middle or low. This is, again, it's an average, so you can take that with a whole grain of salt, but they have an equal preference for really being alone to recharge and really being out there in a social setting. It is really okay to have both going at the same time. It's very situational. It varies over time. It's a growth kind of a thing. So now let's see, how can we do this more functional and affirming way of embracing the best qualities of both? There is no reason to ditch anything. You don't have to stop being shy. You don't have to stop being, happy to get on a stage and do a jig in front of 100 people, right? So the extroverted self enjoys joyful connection, jumps in and explores, has this vision and this belief that something better is coming, is a rule bender, is able to go, wait a second, we don't have to do it that way. Let's go over here, you guys, come with me. Let's do this, right? But the self-care part of that also draws on seeing the big picture, watching and waiting, nurturing your sensitivities, embrace them. They're okay, they're good. They help you understand how other people are feeling. And you can internally reflect before responding. So I think one of the surprises here as I was preparing this for today is that the self-care doesn't just come from going inside to reflect. The self-care also comes from joyful connection. Like even if you generally tend to rather be home watching TV by yourself, maybe sometimes it's really good to gather a few people and go to the local winery and sit and just look at the trees and watch the bunnies hop across the field and have that experience with people. And so the self-care comes from embracing both. And you can add to this. There are many, many more little bubbles that can go in here that you can add to it to embrace the idea that you don't have to be one or the other all the time. So one of my wonderful colleagues here at On Purpose Women today asked, like, so what are the other self-care kinds of things that you can do? And I realized that this fits with the card deck that I created in 2013, which is taking the same concept of having, instead of having oppositional ideas, we have complementary ideas that flow back and forth. And when you find yourself too much on one side, you flip to the other. And that's what my card deck does. So it's built on the idea that there's mentor brain, which is the logical moving parts. Get things done. Make sure there's a roof over your head. Make sure you are planning and strategizing and creating boundaries that keep you safe. And then when that gets to be too much and you feel like nothing's possible because I'm stuck in this little comfort zone over here, then you can flip it over to the muse brain, which is sparks and spirits and emotions and thoughts and forces that ignite your dreams. So that's really what this is all about. And you can take the quiz in either English or in Spanish, which I developed with a colleague, to find out how much you're toggling introvert and extrovert. There's a portion of this quiz up front that's supporting my research. So it's going to ask you some questions about how you perceive yourself now, but then it'll get into this whole assessment using the new measures that I've developed. And you'll find out whether you're maybe 15 points or more higher on the introvert side, or 15 points or more higher on the extrovert side? Or are you somewhere equal within 15 points of both? And that will tell you if you're a flexivert or not. And that is what I have to say today. So I'm excited about the conversation, continuing the conversation.
Woohoo! Let's take a moment to show some love to our speaker. Let's hear it for Ellen. Thank you, Ellen, for so much for sharing your wisdom and heart with us today. And to everyone who is listening, thank you for being part of this vibrant, supportive, and purpose-filled community. If you'd like to learn more about how to get involved in our Zoom or in-person gatherings or explore On Purpose Woman magazine, just head over to opwgc.com. That link is in the show page. We'd love to connect with you again soon. And until next time, stay inspired, stay authentic, and stay connected. Thank you, Ellen. Woohoo!